What is going on, guys? In this video, my two business partners, Anything Financial, are going to be sitting down with Russell. If you didn't watch the previous video, make sure you go check it out because we walked through his unit and talked about how to set up a unit for Airbnb. It was a great video, loads of value, go check it out. In this specific video, we're going to be talking about why Russell is choosing to house hack his house and list the property or the unit on Airbnb. So make sure you stick around. There's going to be a lot of financial tips and tricks in here. Stick around and make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, so a lot of people might not know what specifically the investing strategy house hacking is, which is currently what Russell is doing in his property. So I guess for the first question, Russell, like, what is house hacking specifically?
Yeah, so this is something I talk about a lot on my YouTube channel too. I think that house hacking is one of the best ways you can get a financial leg up.
For sure.
Yeah, so what it is, basically, it's buying a property that you can both live in and rent out in some way. There's a bunch of different sort of subgenres of house hacking, right? Like what I'm doing is I'm living upstairs in this 2-unit property and renting the basement on Airbnb. Some people will buy a multifamily property, a triplex or a fourplex, or even larger, and they'll live in one unit and use the rent from the other units to pay off their mortgage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there is, like, even just entering the genre in that sense, there's a lot of other sub stuff that you can do with it.
Yeah, you're right. And you can also do it like it doesn't have to be a 2-unit home even. A lot of people talk about not wanting to live with roommates, right? And what you can actually do is buy a small single family home or like even like an apartment or a condo that has multiple bedrooms.
Yep.
And then get roommates, live with roommates in the other rooms and rent it out. And that can cover most, if not all, of your mortgage payment.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you set it up properly and really kind of look into it in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be unreal.
Yeah.
So you can technically rent out just rooms then?
Yeah, you can rent out just rooms. You can do that, like if you're living in the property, you can do that not on Airbnb, or you can actually just do it on Airbnb.
Okay.
Yeah, Airbnb doesn't always have to be a separate unit like this. You can have shared spaces. So I know, like, if I wanted this property to perform even better, I could use the 2 extra, like upstairs is a 3-bed, 1-bath. Down here it's a 2-bed, 1-bath. I could live in 1 bedroom and rent out the other 2 if I wanted to, right? And that would completely cover the entire mortgage and then some if I did that.
For sure, right?
And if I ever hit some financial hard times, it's nice to know that I have the control and the options to be able to do that.
The true definition of house hacking.
Yeah, exactly. For now, because I'm living with my girlfriend, it's like we're just gonna have upstairs for ourselves. But like if times called for it, we could do it.
That's the beauty, in my opinion, about house hacking is you can set it up to your personal situation, right? So it's flexible in that sense where, you know, you can still have money coming in, but you can still live upstairs and have your full property in that sense.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Go.
If you guys didn't know, Russell is currently like renting his second unit out to Airbnb. So that's what he's doing.
Yeah, there's going to be more videos in the future if they're not already out now, walking through the property on Airbnb and showing how to get that set up if you want to choose that route for house hacking.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it comes down to what you're comfortable with, right? Like, I think in the investing space, there's a lot of people who talk about you need to optimize for cash flow and for the absolute ideal amount of money you can suck out of a property, right? But you have to think about how is that going to affect your happiness, your relationships, right? Like, I think that's something that's not really talked about.
Of course, because
right?
at the end of the day, everyone's still human, right? It's like, yes, we'd love to all think we're machines in that sense when it comes to business, but we're still humans. We still have to live a life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, like if you're the type of person that can like live in like, I've heard of people like sectioning off living rooms and they sleep there and rent out all the other bedrooms. If you're a person who can do that, go for it, 100%.
Teach me your ways. Please.
I've even heard people like, so they sleep in 1 bedroom and shower at the gym or something. And, like,
Oh my
don't
goodness.
even like just rent out everything else except for that 1 bedroom they occupy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all
That's the
about
grind.
comfort level,
For sure, right?
like the levels of comfort that you have, right?
So Russell's currently renting out his basement unit, and my question to you, Russell, is why did you choose Airbnb within Whippy, and kind of how did it come about?
Yeah, so of course when you're thinking about renting out a unit, you first of all think about like what can I get in terms of long-term rent for this unit. In this area of Whippy, it could be $1,500 to $1,600 for a basement unit like this if it was unfurnished, nothing in it, right?
Yeah.
So which is great.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so Airbnb typically sees slightly more rent than you would get with a long-term tenant, and that's what we're expecting here for anywhere from $1,600, $1,700. In some areas, it'll actually perform much better than that. Whitby isn't really a tourist hub, which is where Airbnb tends to perform the best. But the real reason we chose to go with Airbnb is because of the control it gives you over your property, especially when we're living upstairs. To have a tenant down here, we'd have to deal with all the landlord-tenant laws and worry about evictions if we have a bad tenant. But with Airbnb, you're not dealing with any sort of human rights or their rights to the property when they're living in the basement long term, right? Yeah. So having that flexibility, like if somebody breaks the no party rule and they have a rager in my basement, I can call the cops.
Yeah. Literally,
right? And there's not any claim that they can make like, this is my home, you can't kick me out.
No, exactly.
If I had a long-term tenant, they have parties every weekend. It could take, with the landlord-tenant board, how long those delays are, like you could have a problem tenant for 6 months to a year, right?
Exactly. That's actually very true, and that's something I didn't really think about too much as a reason why people would want to do Airbnb. Because, like, I literally lost my train of thought there.
I do know with Airbnb, like they do have a reimbursement policy. So like say for example, the tenants like do break some sort of like the law they have on Airbnb, you can get like reimbursed from that like by payment.
Exactly.
So that's also a benefit.
Yeah, they have coverage that's just like from using the Airbnb platform, you get that coverage.
Yeah.
So like if a tenant breaks something, you can submit it to the Airbnb claims and they'll take a look at the situation, and most of the time they favor the property owner because they're the lifeblood of their whole platform, right? If they don't treat the people who are renting out their spaces well, how are they making any money, right? Like, so they, as opposed to the Ontario government's view where they're very tenant friendly, Airbnb really errs on the side of their landlords. Yeah, and another pro for it, like because we are house hacking it, we can use some of the space down here for storage. Like we have certain doors around the Airbnb that we have keys for, right? So they won't have access to that. But during the times when the unit's vacant, we can go down there and get whatever we're storing. So it has the flexibility where like it's still all your property. Like you can still use it all. We don't have laundry upstairs for us, right? So we are just going to schedule our laundry loads whenever there's a vacancy in the Airbnb unit, right? As opposed to completely renovating the kitchen. Like a lot of people put these stackable, like when they're doing duplex conversions, they'll put in the stackable washer, dryer machines in the kitchen or whatever. And instead of doing that, we kind of had this flexibility that we can come. And there's actually one tip for Airbnb. You guys can use this tip wherever you want to. There's a great analysis website called AirDNA. Yeah, so AirDNA, you can subscribe. You can see certain stats for free, but you can spend $20, and then for that month you can see all these in-depth stats for any given market for Airbnb. Really? So you can estimate the vacancy. You can estimate what your rents will be for the month, what everybody's charging per night for every kind of amount of bedroom, 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bed. So that's great if you want to kind of look at your numbers versus a long-term rental.
Being this is your first time kind of going into a house hacking experience, how are you prepared to go about it?
So I'm actually pretty excited to get into it. Ever since, like, I'm sure you guys have all felt like once you get bit by the real estate bug, it's like, man, I just want to go and I just want to do it, right? So I've been pretty enthusiastic going into it. I think the fact that it gives you such a defensive play in terms of your finances, that's something I talk to a lot about with lots of different people, is like, if you take this defensive play and you can actually decrease your amount of spending on your housing expenses, think of how much added investment capital you have going into the future, right? So like if I had bought this house and had to pay the entire full mortgage every single time, each month when it comes around, like I would have a lot less to put forward to future properties, right? So in terms of it just giving me that leg up that I can take almost all the money that I make and funnel it into new rental properties. Like that's what can really be like a springboard that can launch you into a real estate investing.
Definitely. Yeah. So you're more thinking definitely, of course, obviously, the long-term vision, right?
Exactly. Like I'm going to hold this place. It's going to appreciate over time. Like there's all these benefits, the mortgage payments that I'm making each month, subsidized by the Airbnb in the basement, all of that goes towards the mortgage, and then there's principal and interest, right? So all that principal is getting paid off, more and more equity builds up in the home, and then all of a sudden you have access to potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars with a home equity line of credit, or when you have assets that grow over time, you can leverage that into doing so much more, right? So just getting in was important to me.
Yeah.
So I have a question though. So what would you say is like your long-term goal? So do you plan on purchasing more properties down the line, and what else? Like, what are you?
Yeah.
What's the future for Russell?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm a real estate sales representative and I run this real estate investing business. So I'll help people that are in a similar situation to me get into house hacking. So that's a big long-term passion of mine, is like getting people to get bitten by that real estate bug, right? Because it can do so much for you.
It can change someone's life. Right?
It can change someone's life. And I have buddies that weren't thinking about it at all, and now I've taken them to a couple meetups and they're like, oh man, like I can see.
It's amazing.
So it's a goal of mine to educate people, but then also in terms of my own real estate investing, I want to own multiple properties. Looking into student rentals right now. I've put in a few offers and it's a hot market right now, so they've been declined and not accepted, but soon I'm going to get one. Yeah, so I want to get more and more properties, just because when you sort of get that stack of properties, everything's just multiplied, right? More and more. Exactly. You've got all of those properties appreciating, all of those properties, principal being paid down, and then cash flow on top of it, right?
Really, just scaling up the amount of properties you have will just more income, right? In that sense.
Exactly.
It almost gets easier because then the one property will cover the other, and it'll just keep going.
Exactly.
The domino effect. Right?
Yeah, the domino effect.
Yeah, essentially he's just one step closer to financial freedom.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you, Russell, for letting us come see your Airbnb unit.
Alright guys, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you haven't already, check out the last video we did in Russell's Airbnb. Hit the notification bell and stay tuned so you never miss a video.